At 100 years old, MG is one of the oldest brands in the automotive industry, but it's very clear that they are not slowing down. Today, they're previewing the new S5 EV, their new B-segment crossover electric vehicle. Now, the S5 EV will be available in Malaysia in two variants, a 49 kilowatt-hour unit paired to a smaller front motor producing 170 PS and 250 Newton meters of torque, offering up to 340 kilometers WLTP. However, there is also a 62 kilowatt-hour pack which will be made available, which will offer 430 kilometers of WLTP range. Now, in terms of charging, this car does offer pretty decent DC speeds as well as pretty decent AC speeds, at least enough for a vehicle like this, because we imagine that vehicles of the S5 EV will be an additional car for a lot of families to do a lot of urban work. Now, compared to the ZS EV, the new MGS certainly sees an evolution in terms of design language. So up front, while you still get a very familiar face replete with the sort of dual line lower air breathers that we've seen from other MG models, you also get a new set of headlights with a new headlight design where it's now split with a checkered flag pattern on the top as well as the main beams that live further down below. Beyond that, you also find a set of air breathers down the front in order to improve this car's aerodynamic efficiency, therefore extending range. Now, talking about range, rolling stock on this car are handled by a set of Bridgestone Turanza tires wrapped around 18-inch alloy wheels. Now, these designs are not only meant for aerodynamic efficiency, but they're also here to reduce rolling resistance. That's why they are 18s and not, say, 19s, for example. That should also mean that replacing the tires should be a little bit more affordable because these are not EV-specific tires, although given the fact that this is a preview, the tire and wheel specification could change at point of launch. As we move further down the side, you can tell that the new MG SEV is a compact car. In terms of dimensions, this is a broadly B-segment crossover or B-plus segment crossover based on wheelbase and overall dimensions. However, because it's an electric vehicle, the wheelbase has been stretched as far as it possibly can in order to improve interior space while not compromising in terms of driving dynamics. And overall, I do think the design treatment of the MGS is very successful. I do think it's a very mature-looking vehicle and certainly a welcome entrant within this segment. Now, the back of the S5 EV is just as distinctive as the front because not only do you get a set of full LED taillights, as you can see, replete with LED indicators, as well as a light bar bisected by the MG badge, and just like the MG4, you also get a sort of built-in integrated spoiler here, which I think does make the back end of this car look quite good. Obviously, you don't get exhaust pipes, but because it says S5 EV here, to me, that seems to imply that there might be another powertrain coming soon, although MG Malaysia will not confirm it. Now, behind the standard fit power tailgate, you will find a pretty good amount of space. This is certainly large enough for a B-segment crossover, kind of what you'd expect, and there is also a dual-level false boot floor, which means that in its highest level, like it is now, you have no load lip and the rear seats can be folded 60-40 absolutely flat for maximum cargo capacity, and it still retains space underneath the boot floor. Now, under here is perhaps one of the most interesting features I've seen so far, because while this car does come with a toolkit, the cover for the toolkit says tools. Now, I don't know about you, but I really like characterful touches like that because it just makes a car feel a little bit different. And overall, I do think that compared to the MG ZS EV, which essentially this car replaces, this does feel like a much more mature, much more grown-up vehicle, the sort of thing that someone can see themselves living with day to day at its estimated price of 115,000 ringgit. Inside, that same sense of maturity extends into this cabin, which is again a very different design from what we've seen before from the MG4, but I still think that this car looks excellent. So we'll start with material quality because everything that you can see is broadly soft touch. It's only when you get to areas a little bit further down from the midpoint that things start to get a little bit scratchy, but even then they've paid attention to areas that you will touch. So around these cup holders, for example, that's soft touch. This wireless charging pad, for example, is flock lined, and even this armrest feels really sturdy. This is more solid than a VW. Now, beyond that, the design of this cabin is very intelligent because MG understands that their cars are being driven by drivers. As a result, there has been a clear emphasis on tactility and interior usability. For example, there are tactile physical buttons to control your HVAC controls as well as even direction and speed. You also get actual physical buttons for your rear demister, which not a lot of brands offer, and you still get a lovely solid feeling gear selector down here, which actually feels more solid than what we've seen from other more expensive cars. You also get physical stalks, you also get physical buttons on the steering wheel, you even get a driver monitoring system, which I think is probably going to be annoying, but beyond that you also get a fantastic digital instrument cluster which gives you all information that you need at a glance, and it's certainly an upgrade from what we've seen from the MG ZS. Now beyond that screen, there's also obviously a central touchscreen here, which is now bigger than what we've seen from other MG models, and more importantly uses a very new OS for this car, which now has much bigger widgets, much easier to use, much better than we saw from the MG5, and it should offer things like a 360 camera as well as Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is exactly what we want to see. Now, in terms of ergonomics, because MG is a driver-focused brand, I am delighted to say that even sat here, the ergonomics on this car are fantastic. This driver's seat is powered, and the steering wheel offers a huge range of adjustment, which means that it doesn't matter if you like to sit low like me or you want to sit higher like other drivers, you should be able to get comfortable in here. Visibility is also pretty good because the A pillars have been reprofiled for better view and better sight, although the rear three-quarter is a little bit tight due to a chunky D pillar, but that is generally the case for cars like this. Now, a quick touch on the upholstery. As you can see, this car is done up in a light grey interior, which helps to make this car feel a bit more airy and a bit more spacious. But more importantly, these seats are actually a leather fabric combination. This is because not only does fabric not absorb heat the way leather does, but more importantly, as a driver-focused brand, it is important that the upholstery holds you in place. This is further supported by the rather pronounced side bolsters, which again should provide adequate lateral support. It is just unfortunate that this driver's seat does not come with lumbar. However, if you look in the middle, you will find a little bit of perforation, which if you get very close, you will see actually says MG, which I think is quite cute. Also, there's a full-size panoramic sunroof. Again, for 115 grand estimated, that's not bad. Now, the MG S EV is built off of the same modular platform which underpins the MG4 as well as the MG Cyberster, which means that this platform is dedicated to EVs, and that is very obvious from the rear. The floor is completely flat, and thanks to that incredibly long wheelbase, I have a huge amount of knee room set behind myself at 170 centimeters and a pretty good amount of headroom despite the standard fit panoramic sunroof. On top of that, while there isn't as much under-thigh support as I would like, the seat bases are actually angled at a very comfortable manner, and they are very, very soft, which means that sat here, I just need to stretch out just a little bit and I feel very comfortable. In fact, if you were to put 3 adults back here, I think the center person shouldn't be too uncomfortable because the seat base is relatively wide and there is plenty of space for feet. Now, aside from that, obviously I have a great view out because the shoulder line on this car is quite low, which means there's a huge amount of glass area. You have that panoramic sunroof that I mentioned earlier. There are a couple of crotch coolers here, but they can be angled up high enough, so that's pretty good. Unfortunately, there is only one USB-C port, which means that if you have 2 kids back here, good luck. However, if you have adult passengers in the rear, you have a deployable center armrest here with cup holders, and this armrest is even leather lined with stitching. This attention to detail is something you don't even get in cars like a Porsche Cayenne, so this is very impressive. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'd be quite happy to sit back here over a longer distance because it feels very comfortable. I have excellent lateral support, which is again very strange for a Chinese car, and overall life back here is really, really positive. Even the quality back here is pretty good because important touch points like down here are nice and soft and stitched, although up here is now scratchy plastic, just like what we saw from other MGs. I guess some habits die hard. Now, it hasn't yet been confirmed, but we expect the MG S EV to come with the standard 7-year or 8-year warranty for the high voltage powertrain, as well as the standard warranty package that we've seen for these cars. On top of that, in terms of after-sales servicing, we have been told that the 7-year servicing for this car should not come up to more than about 3,000 ringgit, making this a very efficient vehicle, cost-efficient vehicle to maintain. Now, again, estimated pricing for this car starts at 115,000 ringgit, although we are expecting that number to move about a bit. It could be higher, it could be lower. We're not really sure what their strategy is, but more importantly, this car will be made available in a variety of colors, including the gorgeous red that we've seen before from MG. Now, in terms of launching, we expect this car to arrive in the market not too long from now, where we should have further details, and then hopefully not long after that, we'll be able to get this car out for a test drive. In any case, we look forward to hearing from you to hear what you think about the new MG S EV. Is this a B-segment electric crossover that you would consider? And if not, why? We'd like to hear from you. In any case, that concludes our preview of the new MG S EV. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. All the links are in the description below, including the link to join our new WhatsApp channel. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next one. Take care and stay safe.